June 19th, 2025, southern Spain. Spanish police forced their way into a luxury apartment in the sun-soaked coastal city of Fuengirola after receiving a missing persons report for one of the world's most famous female bodybuilders. What they find inside is nothing short of savage. Lying in a pool of blood, her face and skull smashed to pieces with a metal hammer, is a massive female body, unrecognizable at first. But moments later, they identify her as 43-year-old Zunilda Amy Hoyos Mendez, a Colombian bodybuilding champion and OnlyFans model known around the world as Amy Muscle. From the blood-soaked floor, a crimson trail leads into the bathroom, where they find a second body, Jarrod Gelling, 46 years old, Amy's husband. He's covered in stab wounds to the chest and stomach, a knife nearby. According to the report, no one had seen either of them in 5 days. No messages, no workouts, no uploads. For a couple so public and so physically powerful that silence was deafening. At first, police were stunned. Who had the strength to take down 2 elite bodybuilders and leave no trace behind? But the truth they uncovered would shake not just the town of Fuengirola, but the entire global bodybuilding community. Welcome to Femme True Crime, where we tell the raw, untold stories behind the headlines. If you're drawn to truth, justice, and powerful storytelling, join the family. Subscribe now.
Dedication,
You didn't need to know her personally to feel her presence. Zunilda Amy Hoyos Mendez. Most people online knew her as Amy Muscle, or She-Hulk. Wasn't just a bodybuilder. She was a force. At 43, she had the kind of discipline that most people only talk about having. Up before dawn. Every rep, every calorie, every hour of training accounted for. She wasn't just building a body. She was building a brand, a dream, a future she could finally own. And she did it all with this quiet kind of pride. Not loud, not boastful, but you could feel it, even through a screen. Amy was Colombian-born and internationally known. In 2021, she placed runner-up at the NPC Latin American Championships, and she was still pushing, still prepping. In fact, when she died, she was just days away from stepping on stage again. Offstage, she was just as focused. She had over 100,000 subscribers on OnlyFans. Not just followers, fans. People who respected the body she built and the boldness it took to put herself out there. She lived freely, on her own terms, and worked hard for everything she had. But more than all that, she was present. She texted her niece every single day, never missed a workout, showed up at the gym like clockwork. So when she suddenly stopped posting, stopped answering, stopped showing up, everyone who loved her felt it in their chest. Something was wrong, and they knew it. Despite her fierce looks, her online following, and the discipline that left little room for distractions, Amy still made room for love. She met Jarrod Gelling 4 years ago at a bodybuilding event, and it didn't take long before they became inseparable. He wasn't quite as high profile as Amy, but he wasn't a stranger to the fitness world either. Jarrod was an American-Colombian bodybuilder, known mostly in local Florida circles. He owned a supplement shop called Southern Muscle, based out of Brandon, and from the outside looking in, he seemed like a supportive partner. He was also involved in a charity that helped Colombian kids learn English and build better futures. That side of him, soft, service-oriented, was something Amy admired. They didn't have kids, but they shared a lifestyle. They trained together, traveled together, and for the most part, it seemed like they genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Jarrod would occasionally help Amy prep for her competitions, spotting her, filming her workouts, cheering her on in the background. To her friends and fans, Amy was the star, but Jarrod was always there in the frame, just off to the side. And maybe that's where the cracks began. Because while Amy's career kept climbing, her body sharper, her reach growing, her name spreading, Jarrod stayed mostly still. And sometimes when one partner is growing and the other isn't, that gap turns into resentment. Somewhere between the training sessions and couple selfies, Amy started to feel unsafe. Not just tired. Not just distant. Unsafe. Back in 2024, she began quietly confiding in family members. She told them that Jarrod was changing, becoming more aggressive, more possessive, and harder to talk to. The man who used to help her lift now felt like a weight she was carrying. She admitted she'd been thinking about divorce. She didn't know how to say it, how to bring it up, but she knew she didn't want to keep living like this. So she made a plan. Their trip to Spain, originally meant for Jarrod's knee recovery, and her final prep before an upcoming show in Portugal became something else entirely. To Amy, this was supposed to be a soft ending, a final moment of support, a goodbye, maybe even closure. But to Jarrod, Amy was his world, and he wasn't about to let her walk away. The couple landed in Spain a few weeks before the crime. At first, everything appeared normal, but in the days leading up to June 14th, things shifted. Neighbors later told police they heard raised voices, heavy arguments, and what sounded like furniture being slammed around. Then, silence. Amy vanished from the gym. She stopped replying to messages. Her niece, who spoke to her every single day, couldn't reach her. Her coach? Nothing. No Instagram posts. No stories. No check-ins. Nothing. She had ghosted the one thing she never missed, her training sessions. And that's when everyone who knew her began to worry. Her last confirmed sighting was on June 14th. Then, something even more disturbing happened. That same week, a post appeared on Amy's Instagram page. It was long, rambling, confessional, and it sounded like Jarrod. For the past 20 weeks, Amy has been training for a bodybuilding competition and has been on a heavy steroid cycle. He claimed her coach was pushing her too far, that the drugs were changing her. She became mentally abusive, even smashed a door in our apartment. She's nice to everyone else, but not with me. And then he shifted to money. Years ago, after a rough breakup, they got back together, but only under one condition. He said Amy wanted full control of their finances. He claims he agreed, transferring over $2.7 million in crypto to her. She earns $1 million a year on fan pages. I told her she didn't need to, but she loved the attention. I had to ask her permission to buy anything. She controlled everything. And finally, the post takes its darkest turn. She told me she wanted a divorce, that under Colombian law, she gets everything, even my money. Some people took it as a desperate cry for help. Others saw it for what it likely was, a warning, a justification, a final note from a man who already knew what he was about to do. By June 18th, one of her closest friends in the gym filed a missing persons report. The very next day, police arrived at the couple's apartment in Fuengirola for a welfare check. What they found behind that door would leave them, and the entire bodybuilding world, shattered. The front door had to be forced open. There were no signs of a break-in, but what police found inside told them something violent had happened here. Furniture was overturned, blood smeared the walls, and then, in the bedroom, they found her. Amy, lying face down in a pool of blood, her body still massive strong, but her face was unrecognizable, crushed, smashed. Her skull had been shattered with what appeared to be a metal hammer. It wasn't a clean kill. It wasn't quick, it was rage. From the bedroom, a trail of blood led into the bathroom. That's where police discovered a second body, Jarrod Gelling, 46, Amy's husband. He was on the floor, covered in stab wounds to his chest and abdomen. A knife lay nearby, no signs of a struggle, no defensive wounds. The scene was unlike anything the responding officers had seen before. No forced entry, no other suspects, nothing missing. The hammer was still there, so was the knife. And based on early forensic reports, the attack on Amy came first, sudden, overpowering, and personal. Police believed they were looking at a final act of violence, a moment of control, planned and carried out by someone who had no intention of walking away. Some even speculated that Jarrod may have been in the grip of a steroid-fueled breakdown, the kind that strips away logic and leaves only anger and fear. Because no one just does this, not out of sadness, not even out of jealousy. This was domination, and he made sure Amy would never leave him, even if it meant neither of them would leave that apartment alive. The news hit like a shockwave. The bodybuilding world, tight-knit, loyal, and fiercely supportive, was stunned. Amy Muscle wasn't just a competitor. She was a symbol, a fighter, a woman who had carved out her own place in a male-dominated industry. Her coach, who had been prepping her for a competition just 17 days away, said he was speechless. This wasn't just a missed show, it was a stolen future. Her OnlyFans subscribers flooded her last posts with comments: grief, confusion, disbelief. Many of them had followed her journey for years. Some had trained because of her. Others simply admired the strength she carried, inside and out. But no one felt the loss quite like her family. Her niece, who had spoken to Amy every single day, said the silence was immediate and terrifying. She would never just go quiet, she told reporters. Never. Spanish authorities quickly categorized the case as a gender-based act of domestic violence, one of the most brutal they'd seen in recent memory. Under Spain's strict domestic violence laws, Amy's death was recorded as an intimate partner femicide. And in Fuengirola, where the couple had been living temporarily, the local community gathered in quiet remembrance. There was a moment of silence, a candlelight vigil, and a pause in a town that, for a moment, held its breath. Because this wasn't just a death, it was a deep betrayal of trust by someone who was supposed to love her. There was no arrest, because there was no one left to arrest. It was over, just like that. Amy Hoyos Mendez was a woman who built her body, her brand, and her future with fire and focus. She made her name in a world where women like her are told to shrink, soften, stay silent, and instead, she got louder, stronger, more visible. But in the end, the person who destroyed her wasn't a stranger. It was the man who had cheered from the sidelines, the one who said, "I love you," the one who couldn't handle letting her go. She gave him everything. The only thing she asked for was space, and it cost her her life. If Amy's story moved you, please consider liking, sharing, and leaving a comment below. This is our first video on the channel, and your support helps us bring more untold stories like this to light. Subscribe and help us grow a space that honors victims, not just headlines. Thank you for watching.